We're here today at the Algae Technology sponsored Bedbug Preventive Symposium here in Florida. Actually, we're in beautiful downtown Orlando today. And we're here with Drs. Phil Koehler, University of Florida, endowed professor at University of Florida, Gainesville, and Dr. Jim Ballard of Ballard Consulting. And I thought it'd be nice today just to have a little repartee, a little go back and forth about ActiveGuard and some of the applications of ActiveGuard, since both gentlemen here as investigators have worked with the product in the past. And I'm curious, I'll start off with Phil, please. Phil, what has your experience been in terms of where you see the application of ActiveGuard in various aspects of bedbug control?
Well, of course, bedbug control is actually a pest management program that is composed of several different strategies. Of course, the first part of that strategy is kind of like the base of a pyramid, that like what we have for like even food, that we have the food pyramid. Right. We also have a pest management pyramid where the base of that is education and prevention. And I look at the ActiveGuard liners as a very good way to be a part of that pyramid right at the base where we're trying to prevent infestations. It's much easier to kill one bed bug than it is to kill 35,000 bed bugs. And one of the things that we found is in some of our computer models of a bed bug population growth is that if you start out with a pair of bed bugs, which would be like a male and female bed bug, at the end of 10 weeks, you can have 35,000 bed bugs if they're not controlled or prevented. So basically, if you start out at the beginning of that whole process with one female bed bug being introduced into a house, and the only thing you have to do is make sure that that female does not reproduce and is not able to lay eggs, like with the mattress liners, then you're not having to deal with 35,000 bed bugs in 10 weeks.
It's interesting. Jim, we've been talking, this entire symposium is based upon prevention. And although historically, we probably have gone through this with German roaches in the 80s and maybe even termites in the late 90s and 2000, early 2000s, how do you see bedbug prevention actually unfolding? Because it's still a relatively novel concept.
I think that bedbug prevention will unfold now, especially now that the industry has got a handle on good insecticides to complement the program. Up until relatively recently, the insecticides used by the industry have left a lot to be desired, and were not long-lasting enough or effective enough. But now that we have a few insecticides that have shown their value to the industry, it now allows us to have a preventive program that can be better supported.
Phil, staying on the concept of prevention, we know that hospitality, or the hotels generally, are being challenged with bed bugs at the doorstep almost every day. But there are other verticals, like universities, colleges, assisted living, multiple occupant dwellings, things of that nature. Do you think that prevention can extend to these particular areas as well as in hospitality?
I think anytime you look at that pest management pyramid, that it's not restricted to just hotels or houses. It has to be extended to all the different places where bed bugs can be a part of the environment. And maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think of bed bugs somewhat like we used to talk about termites, that there are two kinds of houses, those that have termites and those that are going to get termites. We can probably think about bed bugs in the same way, that if you don't have anything to prevent bed bugs from coming into a place, then it's just a matter of exposure. They're eventually going to get there. If you live long enough, you're going to have a bed bug in your house. And the idea would be, if a bed bug does get into your house, is it going to be able to live and survive? And that's where prevention is much better than trying to control the thousands after 10, 12, 2 years after it was introduced.
Excellent points. Jim, Phil mentioned housing. And I think it's fair to say, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's fair to say that lower income housing is probably, if not one of the largest repositories of bed bugs in this country. That has to date, because of financial restrictions, has been relatively non-addressed, or if it's been addressed, it hasn't been addressed very effectively. I mean, there are studies out there that suggest that maybe they can be 90 to 92% effective in certain strategies, but that just allows the other 8% to repopulate the facility. Do you see that Active Guard and maybe what we're working with environmentally low impact products like Symexa, do you think that Active Guard and Symexa, in the right strategy, can make a significant change in effectively controlling bed bugs in those populations?
I think that it can. Again, it comes back to having IPM programs put together with the proper insecticides that can last long enough to back it up. Part of the biggest problem in multifamily housing, low-income housing, is having a plan in place, a program in place, but keeping it moving sustainably so that the aspects of the program that are being used to control bed bugs are continued to be paid attention to and continue to be utilized. So often, a year down the road, things disintegrate, somebody gets transferred, and the programs die. So it's sustainability of a program that's as important as anything else. And if you have products that can be sustained in the use to control bed bugs, that's even better. And I think we have those products today.
Very good. And the last question I have is for Phil. Phil, being on campus, okay, you know, and I'm not going to, I'd like you to talk about non-University of Florida campuses, obviously. Bed bugs challenge the students all the time. Bed bugs are actually challenging their parents all the time, because when they come home for Thanksgiving or Easter or some sort of midwinter break, they come with uninvited guests they bring home. Could you see something like Active Guard becoming a really robust tool in the use of dormitories in colleges, just to improve the quality of life for the students and also prevent some of those unwanted hitchhikers going home?
I think in the education environment, for instance, the dormitories and even married family housing that we have on many of the campuses, that it's a real challenge to be able to control bed bugs. Actually, at many of the universities, they're using mattresses and also beds that are not conducive to bed bugs becoming established. But in the family dwellings associated with campus, it's a whole different ballgame, because at some of the universities, we get a lot of students in from overseas. They go out and they buy the cheapest furniture, the cheapest mattresses. Sometimes they're taking furniture off the streets and bringing it in. They're the ones that get infested. And then when those people end up going home, they take bed bugs with them. And it's a real challenge to be able to deal with a situation where you have basically a transient population. They're there for a short period of time, and then they're going to other places. And they're either bringing them in with themselves, they're bringing them in on belongings that are low cost, because they aren't going to maintain them for their lives. They're just there for a short period of time. And then you end up distributing those throughout campus. I've even talked with some students that when they're ready to do their dissertations, for instance, they're writing their dissertation, they don't want to be distracted by anything. And not even bed bugs are going to distract them. And they actually get very frustrated if you go in there with a program to try to do control of bed bugs while they're trying to write their dissertation. They get very upset at you for disrupting their lives. And basically that's where prevention is one of the challenging things in institutions, because we have a transient population. They're going to be spreading there are bed bugs that have been spread to them when they arrived, and there are bed bugs that are going to be spread back to their homes and places that they came from, unless we have an adequate prevention program in place. And we've worked very hard at many of the institutions to do that.
That's great. Well, gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for sharing some time about bedbug prevention, Active Guard, and some other strategies, and have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks.